And welcome everyone to episode 329 of GI Joburg. My name is Steve. I'm joined by my buddy Paul. Hello, Paul.
Hello, Paul. How's it, guys? How's it, Steve?
Hello.
How's everybody this
Hello to
evening? Are
everyone
we
watching
good?
us live. We're coming at you right now, hot and fresh as you are watching. If you saw on YouTube the little red dot, you know that we are right here, right now. Drop into the comments and say hello. On the slab today, we've got the final issue of Cobra Commander by the Skybound imprint of, is it Image Comics? Correct me if I'm wrong, Paul. And
Yeah, I think.
I'm just going to come out and say it. I mean, while we've been generally positive about this series, this last issue was to be expected as just the boilerplate, setting him up as the Cobra Commander. It had a lot of ground to cover, and much like how The Dark Knight Rises was a departure from the very immediate, very contained story of The Dark Knight, suddenly we had these massive time jumps in geography. This fifth issue kind of felt like that for me. How about you,
Hmm.
Paul?
Yeah, same, man. I kept thinking that I'd missed an issue somewhere. I was like, wait, hold on. What happened in 4? Yeah,
But I
that's
suppose that's a
exactly how it felt
major,
to me.
overarching criticism of what was probably the most exciting and most interesting of the Energon Universe entries, for me, anyways.
Yeah, it's hard for me to choose. I actually also really loved Duke. So Cobra
Oh yeah.
Commander or Cobra Commander
Well,
hasn't
maybe
been bad
that
for me at
is
all.
the question we should be asking. How does this
Hmm.
compare to its sort of running partner, Duke?
Okay. So I feel the story in Duke is a lot more like coherent. We
Mhm.
got a much stronger through line. I feel like with Cobra Commander, we get this great moment with the Dreadnoks, and then with issue 5, then there's all of this like hokiness that happens, and it's when I say that, I'm not trying to like be negative on the book. It's just all of a sudden we land in this one spot, and we're like, wait, hold on, what actually happened? And then when you go, and then I don't know about you, Steve, but I went back and I had a look at all the books, and I'm like, okay, basically it feels like Cobra Commander's been out of Cobra-La for a day. That's how it feels, and then now it feels like it's been months, that have jumped. And so I feel like that's kind of weird. I also feel like issue 5, like I'm getting into it now too much, and I should be comparing the two. Yeah, I think the biggest like comparison thing is just that I feel that Duke had a stronger through line with the character. We were with the character. It was more chronologically sort of sound in terms of what was happening. We also knew what was happening to Duke more often than not, and it feels like he got a conclusion. This issue doesn't feel like it concludes nicely. It's kind of like a feeling that I got from this, which kind of
Well, we
bugs
can
me a little
crack
bit.
into it in a moment. I think we're just going
Mm.
to say hello to the live chat at the moment. We've got
All the
Emmanuel
people.
Gassot, Martin Levin, Joe Fan 84, Peter Moline, and Matt Noon, who's doing yard work while listening to us. Good job, buddy. I hope we can compete with your lawnmower. I always find that's the problem with podcasts. I mean, generally they're not compressed enough to like really push audio into your ears, so they can't compete with like heavy noise. Maybe some
Mm.
hedge trimming with some hand tools or something nice and quiet. Anyway,
Or
the
maybe
question.
you need like better earbuds or something, dude.
Mm,
It's a Christmas gift to consider for you.
Yes, but at the same time, you don't want to be pushing too much volume into your ear holes because, these things, they wear out. And I'm not talking about earbuds. Uh, the question from Mark is, where is Rob? Well, Rob's having computer issues, computer complications, if you will. So he regrets that he will be on as soon as he can. But this is a live show, so we're sticking to our schedule. With or without the full team. I know you guys would crack on without me and frequently have had to. My lighting is very severe. Reason being, I'm in my bedroom because I've got family here.
Yeah, he's in Jabba jail.
Well, I mean, Kim very, very kindly moved out of bed, and she's gone to sleep in Elliot's room, so that I can do this and don't have to do it from the garage. Anyway,
Oh,
that's a little peek behind the curtain. I wouldn't
sweet.
mind doing it from the garage, but she was insistent. Good gal. Take one for the team.
In the comments, somebody mentioned, and I feel like I'm gonna mention this. Somebody, I think it's Emmanuel. Yeah, Emmanuel mentioned how are we podcasting when we're doing elections? Well, because we had our voting was on Wednesday. It's a Sunday. They've just finished counting the votes. Actually, the country's not on fire, so here we are. So
The
that's
only
the
place
best.
I could poll from in Australia is Canberra, which is the sort of, I suppose, legislative capital of Australia, I think.
Yeah.
Been here 3 years, still don't know where's where. But the airfares to get there would make it just ridiculous. I'm talking like, I don't know, $500, about 6,000 rand.
Wow.
Yeah.
So a shame you couldn't vote.
I could not vote. I was registered, but I
wonder how many South Africans in Australia had that exact same problem.
Well, either you make a weekend of it or a week. Yeah, I think we could vote over a longer period, fortunately, but it's just, and I was taunted by images of people queuing up at polling stations in and around London, and there are a few more options there, and also like the UK is a bit smaller than Australia. We can all agree.
Yeah, ever so.
Perhaps a bit easier to get from one place to another. I would have made the day trip for it if I'd just been able to get on a train. However, yeah, no. So, damn it, Paul. Did you do your constitutional duty, your democratic?
I did.
Got it. Got stained up.
Too many good people fought for this to happen, so we make sure that we honor it. It's the only way to do it right. So yeah.
Anyway, let's talk about GI Joe.
Anyway,
democracy.
Yes, that we fight for freedom.
Podcast from the pit and Rob Hawkins have joined in, and so has Zatanna.
60 people.
Hello, indeed.
Yes. Hey, Zatanna's got a new avatar. Very cool. I notice these things sometimes.
All right, I have at my fingertips the images of this issue. If you don't want to be spoiled, perhaps this is the point where we bid you adieu. You can jump back and catch this on the replay. And if you don't really care, if you give rocks about G.I. Joe comics, listen on. We're only going to talk about things that may or may not make sense. Cobra Commander issue 5. Great cover. Firstly, very striking. Something you don't often see from covers, which normally have the action charging towards the viewer. Here we have a shot over Cobra Commander's shoulder, sort of a tight bird's eye view of him overseeing the troops. And a massive red carpet. Either he's expecting someone or he's about to roll some tanks down there or something.
Yeah, or that's just how Cobra Commander rolls, man.
Yeah, I mean, visually it works because you don't want to set your protect or your subject up against the sort of busy sea of troops. But like, actually, practically, there should be something in that space, not just a red floor.
Yeah. Well, I mean, from a comic cover layout point of view, it's awesome. It really works very well. I mean, like okay, let's get in on this for like 2 seconds,
please.
The fact that it's super wide, if you are somebody like Cobra Commander who is ruling these people the way that he rules them, it's good to have a lot of distance between you and where your army is sort of gathered, because it stops one from, it stops them from being able to reach you. You're out of their immediate reach. So Cobra Commander can walk down with an entourage and protect themselves.
I've got a hole in your theory, though, Paul. all
But I
of
mean, like,
these Cobra troops are carrying arms.
yeah, they
If
can
they
all turn
wanted
around
to,
and shoot him,
they
surely.
could drill him.
Yeah. Yeah, true. But that would make it obvious, you know, and you never know if you're one of those guys, you don't know who's really loyal to him and who's really not. And so if you fire that your gun off, maybe like 5 people are going to turn around and shoot you, and it's just chaos. But anyway, it's just like that was like the only practical, like, you know, thing I could give it. The practical accreditation I could give it. Yeah. So
But as we say,
cool.
very striking and interesting. Once again,
Mm.
an angle that you don't often see. Yes.
Yes, siblings.
So we left Cobra Commander in the swamps. He had dispatched Nemesis Enforcer or Nemesis Immortal, whatever you prefer, and also co-opted an evil scientist, or not so evil scientist, a good scientist, which Cobra Commander has then used for very insidious goals. And boom, we're immediately hit with a time jump. It seems someone is destroying and pilfering Mars research, or Mars installations. There's one in Colorado, one in Nevada, one in Alaska, one in
Well, they were.
DC. There were exactly. And we see Destro in the aftermath with what seems to be not only his muscle, but also his secretary, Mercer. He's like Destro's chief whip, which let's talk about for a second, because I
Yeah.
quite like this. It's giving
Mm.
Mercer more shine than he ever got, and I'm here for it. Mercer was always just like played up as the turncoat. We never got to see him doing his job that he was employed to do before
Mhm.
turning to the
He
Joes.
turned code.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here he's very proficient. He's not just the strong man. He's an intelligent kind of second to Destro. Sparring partner, if you will, like the Worf to Captain Captain Picard. Jeez.
You don't think he's oh my
And
word. You
Data.
don't think he's
And
Riker
Riker.
to
Yeah,
Picard.
he's Riker.
Yeah, he's more
He's a tall
Riker.
boy.
Yeah. Yeah. Gets all the ladies with those arms. I dig him being like that sort of 2IC, you know, the left
Oh,
hand.
you are a Mercer fan.
I am a Mercer
Let's
fan.
not forget.
And it's good to see him being used. And it's also cool. It gives some kind of explanation to his accent as well. You know, in the cartoon, and we have also characterized him as having a somewhat kind of British kind of accent, British slant
More
to
on that
him.
later.
Yeah. So in a weird way, like, yeah, actually more on that later. But in a weird way, I kind of like that, you know, he would work with Destro in that respect. Also, yeah, it's cool not just having the Baroness running around Destro. I mean, obviously they haven't met yet, according to this continuity. So we don't have the Baroness, you know, dutifully standing everywhere near Destro, which is actually such a pain in the butt, actually. But anyway,
And
yeah, so it's
guys,
great.
if you want to know more about Baroness and you haven't picked up the free comic book day Energon Universe special, I would suggest doing that because that's pretty exciting to me. That's a new wrinkle on things, which, yeah, if you know your stuff, you know what I'm talking about, even if you haven't read it. But read it because I quite like it. It's stuff like
I
that
will
that
get my hands
just
on it.
adds a fresh spin to this tried and true formula of GI Joe that we're also familiar with. Anytime they diverge from it, anytime they throw Cobra-La into my GI Joe book, I'm like, okay, you've got my attention. More of that, please. Okay, so these
Cool,
non-Iron
chaplains.
Grenadiers are
Mhm.
Destro's sort of army. They look like riot cops with red face shields. Nice.
Yeah, like, yeah, the maybe he just learned, like, fired all of these guys or gave them to Headman later. Something.
Well, they do give off nullifier vibes because they have quite a muted color scheme and then like a pop of color on their face shields. So maybe there's some correlation there. Anyway,
Also,
it seems
did you
Ripper
notice
gets sold out. It's left behind by Cobra Commander during the most recent raid, and is a prisoner to deliver a message to the big silver-faced man himself.
So, okay, so there's a few things about this moment in the book. Firstly, anybody who's got the comic to hand, or if you are watching the live stream now, have you guys noticed Mercer's cute little logo on his armor? Yeah, it's cool. I mean, like, it's cool. It's cool that it's there. I'm like, take it or leave it, kind of thing. But it's just it's a nice detail to add to a character that hasn't had that kind of attention before. So that's cool. But this is where I feel like the book stumbles. Like, I think this is
hang on, Paul. It's not the only place we've seen the Mars logo. It's just an M in a rectangle with like an ecliptic
over a planet. Yeah, it's over in a planet. Yeah, but it just seems like Mercer's little logo. Yeah, because the actual Mars logo is a little bit different in this book as well. But anyway, I just thought it was cute that they gave it to Mercer, and because it's just a Mercer. Anyway, the important part of this moment in the book is this is where, like, this is the one part of the story where I feel like it stumbles. Like, if there's one page we can change to, like, make this book make more sense, this is the one where I would kind of go for it. I get that Ripper is the one that has to deliver the message, because on this page we've got Ripper. He's being brought in. He's being manhandled by Destro's guards, and being presented to Destro by Mercer. But this is what makes it feel like this happens like literally the next day after Cobra Commander, after Cobra Commander and Ripper meet. It feels like I feel like had they sent somebody else, it would have at least helped a lot with the time jump, because this part happens, and then after this we're introduced to, well, we're going to go through this whole thing of, who is this? He's got a note for him. They jump on a helicopter, and then they landed in the middle of Springfield. And
I don't think it's named.
It's not named, but
probably
I'm going to assume it's Springfield. But Springfield's been established. This didn't, like, Springfield couldn't have been established in a day, and that's kind of why this falls flat for me a little bit. Like, like, I don't know. Am I making sense? Like, is it?
Yeah, I think it comes back to your point of, like, when you started reading this, you were like, did I miss an issue? Because yes, there's been a time jump. It hasn't been announced terribly clearly. Like, at first I thought maybe the attacks on the Mars headquarters or buildings or stations, whatever, depots, whatever you want to call them, were being conducted by someone else, like a third party, and that Cobra Commander would offer some kind of assistance to Destro in tracking them down. Like, the immediacy of this issue is broken. But once you accept that, is it not possible that, like, a year has passed and Cobra Commander has built up this power base?
Yeah, you see, that's
you
the
don't
thing.
have to like it, but if you accept that as the rule of this book, does it not work?
It does work. No, then it works. Then it makes, like, I mean, that's kind of what my brain did. My brain just immediately made sense of this all by saying, okay, it's a couple of months later. It was just like, but why wait a couple of months to deliver a message like that? And also kudos to Ripper for surviving as long as he did. The cool thing here, though, the one thing I like about the time jump, and I'm not against the time jump. I'm just against Ripper being used as the messenger in this instance. And just his whole attitude about it. Like, I feel like maybe by that point he would have been more ingratiated by Cobra. Like, he would have been more in Cobra as such. But anyway, the cool thing here that goes on in my head, and I don't know if you guys listening will agree with this, but it feels like this is the part where we get to have where Duke's story starts playing out, because timeline-wise, in the beginning of this book, we have all of the Destro facilities exploding, And it's mentioned that this has happened just after the whole thing with Duke. So he has to kind of, save face. He's got to, Destro has to do some damage control. So I kind of like that, like that whole thing is played out now. So Cobra Commander has actually been established himself long before Duke's arrival. And I dig that. That is cool. That's what this time jump is kind of, or this time skip is telling me has happened. So I'm happy about that. I don't know how many other people are happy about that, but I'm one of them. I'm one of them that's happy about that. But also Ripper, man. Like, geez. Like, I can't get over. I love Ripper. Don't get me wrong. I've got nothing against the character. I just think it would have been cooler had he just used somebody else. And then Ripper was the boss of that person. I thought that would have been, maybe that would have just sold the establishment a bit more. And I would have been like,
here in GI Joburg, we love to agree to disagree, but I think
Yeah.
using anyone else would be a mistake. I think Ripper, we've got a lot of connection to at this point. He's been like this sort of whipping dog that at Cobra Commander's side. It's like, if you run, this will go badly for you, so you better stick around. Don't run. He's being held against his will by this terrible master. And now he's finally kind of off the leash. He has a message to deliver to Destro. This is the panel that gives me even more vibe that Mercer is in fact not American. He calls out and says, "Show the way, Aussie," to Ripper, which does two things. It first finally sets in stone that these are not, in fact, as we were led to believe in issue 2 of Cobra Commander, redneck Americans. The Dreadnoks are, in fact,
Australians,
made up of Australians. Well, Ripper in any case. And also, like, I always feel like that kind of familiarity stems from British to Australian. Like, there's a kind of attention, a banter that exists between those two nations that I think is unique to them. I think if Ripper was like from the United States, oh no, sorry, if Mercer was from the United States, he wouldn't call out that Ripper's an Aussie. I don't know. Maybe I'm barking up the wrong tree, but it's just a vibe that exists.
No, I feel you on that, because as South Africans we would have done the same.
Well, yeah, like,
I mean, we do that. We do that. Like,
white people in Australia are largely British, of British descent, and either were prison wardens or guards, or they were prisoners themselves. So, I mean, that's a vast oversimplification of the colonial history of Australia, but like that vibe exists, and I think it's fun to think that they have that banter, the two of them, the Englishman and the Aussie.
Just want to take our attention to the chats quickly,
please.
Okay, Moonlight. Actually, let's start with Zantara over there. Those Iron Grenadiers look like they are either going to do some welding or drop something in the food fryer. Yes. I think that very unimaginative design of them is intentional. I think it's designed to make us hungry for the actual Iron Grenadiers, the actual designs. But yeah, they do suck. I agree.
They're a way off. I mean, we haven't yet gotten blue shirts. They're on the cover.
True.
Like,
exactly. They're being teased.
Moonlight
jumping in. Destro's guards looking a bit like an armored version of the Renegades troopers. Yeah, actually, now that you mention it, yeah, they do have that vibe. Whoa. A Wild Rob has appeared.
Hello, Wild Rob.
Hello, Wild Rob. Computer complications, huh?
Computers.
I love this one. This comment here from Matt Noon. Okay, jokes aside, I wouldn't be surprised if your vid was a catalyst for Mercer in this series. I would love to think so. It'd definitely make me feel better about myself. Because yeah, we love. I'd love that. I don't know. Like, I think the only way that'll ever be revealed is if some brave soul asks the writers at a convention. If that's the case, I don't think Steve or myself or Steve, Rob, or myself would actually go up to one of these guys and go, by the way, were you inspired to use most of our
By
video
the
on the
Renegades by
YouTubes?
GI Joburg.
Yeah, I don't think we would push it that far.
Well, he's certainly
because-
playing a huge part in this. I mean, he's essentially, Destro's right-hand man. It would
Exactly.
seem. Absolutely.
We got another comment here. I'm gonna highlight it because how many times does this happen? Daphne Jabber. Of course it is Sunday night. One of the constants in the world.
Oh, Mom. You're so random. Thanks for joining us live
That's
on the
super
YouTubes.
sweet.
I know.
Yeah.
That's super sweet.
It's because you don't call her often enough, Stephen. Come on.
Discharged, Your Honor. So
Sure.
Destro's
Careful.
forces get summarily executed by laser fire.
By cylinders. Angry
seem-
cylinders.
It seems to catch Destro off guard, the fact that lasers are being used. Maybe this is the first indication in this issue anyway, that like Destro has tried to use this technology or try to get it to work and hasn't. Oh,
Yeah.
those lasers? Like, this is far out stuff.
Yeah, I think the world
can't
is
wait
basically
around to find
bullet
out.
based. Like everyone uses bullets, and this is the first like use of like, lasers.
Zap, zap, zap. Now, I'm confused at this point. Did they not expect it to be an ambush? Like, hello. I don't care if you brought your guards, but you're still setting yourself down in a densely built up area with lots of opportunity for natural cover. And you step out of your helicopter with impunity and you think we're going to own the place. Even if Cobra Commander's boys were using conventional weapons, this would still be an absolute bloodbath.
Well, it's a
Still-
kill box. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Not very.
But it just
smart
happens to
move
be
on his
these
part.
like sprinkler system laser dispensers that pop out of the ground. Cute. And it's that point where I
Meanwhile,
think to
in Orania-
myself, just like you,
Sorry.
Paul, the criticism exists like, when did he build all of this?
Exactly.
It's one thing to be raiding Mars bases and stealing technology. It's completely another to have a suburban town built as a facade that houses your weapons and your personnel. Like this is major. This is pushing out beyond what I initially settled on, which was like a 1 year time jump. This is several years.
Oh, you think a
which-
long time has passed? I mean, yeah, I would have thought like a year to 6 months has gone by.
Makes it even less exciting to me to know that much time has gone by. It's like, it's a pity. I mean, Rob, just to catch you up, like my overarching criticism is when we had taught sequential quick action in the swamp in like issues 2 to 4, this is a time jump that like Dark Knight Rises this shit. Like suddenly we go from this cool like little crime story set in Gotham over a tight period of time to like months have passed and we've gone to other locations in the world. Like it's just
Yeah,
It's
it's
less
kind of
interesting.
it's kind of like the series. I mean, it's kind of like Duke. I think you had the same criticisms for Duke. It feels like they're actually 4-issue minis, and then the 5th issue is actually the setup for whatever's coming next. And I think that's become a lot more obvious when you finish Cobra Commander now. It's like there's this awesome 4-issue story that they're telling, that's tight. It's setting Cobra Commander up, and now this is the setup for whatever has to come next. Essentially, it's like a tacked on issue at the end. Yeah, it's necessary to kind of like show you what's coming next. Essentially, this is like the credits at the end of a Marvel movie. It's like, oh, what's coming next? We've got to wait till the end of the credits. But here it's a whole issue is just devoted to like, how are we setting this up? What's coming next and the whole thing. So yeah, I do get that. I think it was so strong in this first 4, and then suddenly here's the setup. How do they meet each other? We have to tell it somehow. We don't have an ongoing series that we can just dump one issue into this. Like it has to come in somewhere within the stories we're telling it. And unfortunately, it does. It kind of sullies the end of the story. It was so good.
Get to the chopper. Destro does utter the phrase. Oh man! And then the chopper
Also-
gets blown up. Ha ha ha.
There's a great moment in that page where they're being ambushed, and what is it? It's Mercer that basically asks for a tactical retreat. It's like, and he says like, "Don't think of it as running. Think of it as regrouping." And I thought that was
more energy there, Paul. Come on, man.
no. I'm just being a little. I'm being a bit calm. I'm just gonna leave it at that. But I thought that was fun because usually it's Destro criticizing Cobra Commander for retreating, in the cartoon anyway. And so I thought this was a great like kind of reversal of roles or role reversal. Yeah,
Actually,
it's just a fun little nod. Yeah, it's a fun little nod.
Mercer there takes away something from Destro. Destro is usually the tactical guy. He's also usually the tallest guy, but he is dwarfed by Mercer.
Yeah, he is absolutely huge.
I don't know if I like that, but yeah, it's interesting.
Also,
it's new.
Completely a stylistic choice to make certain panels work. But have you noticed Mercer's height changes? Again, it's a stylistic choice for certain panels. Like if you had to make them the same height, you couldn't do certain things as artistically as you would on this page, for example, where Mercer's standing behind Destro and Mercer's quite big and he kind of frames Destro, which is great. But if they were the same height, it'd be like two guys fitting on a slim panel, so, but there's one moment of it in this book that is particularly egregious. And you'll see what I mean. We'll get to that.
Or short?
It's twins. That's what I'm saying. It's Danny DeVito, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Hilarity ensues. Yeah. And and now we finally get to meet Cobra Commander in this book. Finally. Yeah.
Old Snake appears. Looking like their salvation. Arms. Yeah. Reached out, walking in with the sort of the sun rising behind him.
Yeah,
glorious.
Yeah. Oh, this was hokily done. Like, sorry,
at least they draw in the fact that, like, not only is Cobra Commander the sort of advanced science, Cobra-La technician,
he's also Carmen San Diego. No,
well,
not what you were going to say. Sorry.
I don't know if it's it doesn't allude necessarily to him being a salesman in his past life necessarily, but he pitches himself to Destro as a salesman in that moment, which is cute. Clearly the writer is giving a nod to Cobra Commander's other backstory, in era of being a car salesman. That's what I got from that panel.
Yeah. Well, it leads into the next one where he's like, I have an opportunity for you. But I think the way that he goes about being a salesman is not how an actual salesman would do things, because he is ruthless beyond.
Yeah, think.
Oh my
God.
this
is where, once again, like, the time jump just starts falling to pieces, because I pushed it out past a year, but like we see this incredible science lab, this processing station for, I suppose, raw energon into cube form or usable energy form. Maybe, I mean, in this, it's starting to look more blue than pink in a lot of the tech. Whatever, much of a muchness. But he's got massive staff. One can only imagine in the kind of the Sunbow vein, he's pilfered the science community of the world through acts of terrorism, hand-picking his team and bringing them here against their will to work on his insidious machines. He's propped up by mercenaries who he's not only offered money, but something even better. We don't know what exactly. Maybe you can get high on Energon. Maybe he's basically got a bunch of like drug dependents.
Well, he kind of explains that later. It's not just about money; it's about power as well. I think he offers them the opportunity to have power. In his
anyway,
at the end,
it's the scale of this lab or this Energon processing facility This is something that would have been built over the course of about 25 years.
Nah,
I love
use
this
these
from
little
Zantara,
robots.
guys. Check this.
Please.
I don't know. I have an insurance company that hounds me weekly to buy their stuff. It would not shock me if their salespeople started threatening my life as their next method.
Oh,
A very
God.
Philip K. Dick.
Watch out for laser sprinklers.
Yeah, damn. Yeah, okay, guys. The reason I hate that whole introduction to Cobra Commander, the way he appears, sort of, throwing the gun aside, he's got the sun behind him and all that. Before we get into all of this, is that I feel like it's wholly unnecessary. I feel that the writers needed to obviously show some kind of a sign of strength. They had to show that Cobra Commander has power. They had to do it in the most comprehensible way possible. And okay, cool, good for them. They nailed it. I mean, it sells that. It just makes Cobra Commander come off a bit like John Hammond. Instead of saying spared no expense, he's no. Like on Spider-Man 1, he's like Norman Osborn. I'm something of a scientist myself. I'm a salesman myself. It's like, if you have to say you are, a lot of the times it's difficult to kind of accept that. Also, what sales pitch is he making? He's like, I just killed your people, so what am I selling you? Like, he's not a
He
salesman.
makes that pretty clear. You have weapons that that are so advanced that they need more power supply or better power supply than is currently available. I have that science. So it's the marriage of like weaponry and high science, which is a cool positioning for Cobra Commander. Like,
it
if
is.
he's a used car salesman and has no military experience, he's literally just an enigmatic, like, charlatan. He's a leader of people with no actual sort of skill to add to the organization. Whereas here, he's posited as a scientist. And that's something that always felt like it worked for Cobra Commander, because I think his initial file card, one of his military specialties was like high-tech weapons or something. I should call it up. I'll find it. But it spoke to the fact that he had more to him than just being a cult leader.
Yeah, but you never really saw that though. It was never like used within the way that the character was
he would
portrayed.
source
high tech.
It might have been valid of him in the cartoon. They certainly retconned it with the movie. They made him out to be a Cobra-La scientist. But if you then view the other earlier episodes through that lens, he's oftentimes kidnapping scientists, making them do his bidding, having quite close ties with them. Cobra's creatures, for instance, with Dr. Lucifer. Like, it's very much him and Dr. Lucifer. There's no Destro in that episode. Or very little, I don't think. Anyway, so he has this kind of relationship with the science community, I'd like to think. Let's look at that file card. If the chats want to preempt me.
Well, I could even preempt you. His primary specialty is intelligence, and his secondary specialty is ordnance experimental weaponry.
Yeah.
There you go.
Thanks, Robbie.
Good
boy. Experimental weaponry. It's right there.
System.
1982. It's right there in the ink, guys. All you have to do with GI Joe is know your history, and the stories will write themselves.
So they're actually picking it up a lot more here than they did in any other stories, I think. At least in the main Ra, then obviously he was associated with people, but here very much so he is the scientific driving force behind what Cobra will become. But
the rule of QE Joe Customs is here and says smash the like button. Thank you.
Hell yeah.
He never fails. My goodness.
Do it because he tells you to.
Absolutely, not because we suggested. This page is cool though. I like that the scientist, near the end of the page, he's like, "Please kill me."
Sunbow fans will know where the surname comes from. Dr. Vandermeer. Anyone want to? Oh, I see a like has just popped up. Hey, I love it. I love it. I mean, people say smash the like button, but does anyone actually do it in the moment? I know I certainly don't. I'm a bad sport.
You do it
afterwards. It depends.
I do it when I feel like the content deserves it. That's how I do it.
Oh
you
my
know,
word!
Should I
Yeah,
put out a
I
hat and do a little
get
tap
to the
dance?
end of the video, and I'm like, yeah, actually, I did like that. You know, I'd like to see more of this in my.
Well, we
That
thank you
is-
just for spending time with us, to be honest, because there are a lot of draws on your time. Everyone
Hell
has a YouTube channel or a podcast. So
Oh my goodness,
we are
even have one.
humbled and grateful for you to decide to spend a little time with our one.
Hell yeah.
Dr. Vandermeer, Paul, come on, buddy. Don't let me down.
That's from the UN episode with the what's his name, Zartan, and he pretends to be
But
him.
he's got a different name, man.
Oh, that's not him. Okay, damn.
It sounds similar though, but it's not
He's
him.
the dog guy in the castle who controls animals.
No,
He's-
actually,
Paul.
if I'm not mistaken, isn't Dr. Vandermeer the father that like the one scientist that gets kidnapped and it's his daughter falls in love with Lifeline? Isn't it that
Dr.
one?
Vandermeer is the MacGuffin, the doctor who's responsible for the mass device.
that was my next
poop
guess.
shoot.
That was
So
my
Yeah,
next
no, I
guess.
the
wouldn't have
very
guessed that.
first
That's too obvious. I wouldn't have guessed that.
scientist tropes in GI Joe animation.
Darn it.
Yeah.
So
Vandermeer.
close. So
Hey,
At least I
Daredevil
hope
Dave.
it's right. I'm doing this from memory. If I'm wrong, comments,
Ooh.
crucify me. But yeah, I think it is
Do
Dr.
it.
Vandermeer. He looks different in this portrayal, and I don't remember his first name being said in the show, but it probably was. But Dr. Laszlo Vandermeer, he's being reintroduced.
Laszlo.
And yeah, shaking hands with Destro and whispering under his breath, "Kill me, please." Like, that's a little extreme. I mean, that just, what horrors are these guys being subjected to? Because it looks like a pretty clean workspace. It doesn't look like horrific Cobra-La body horror and torture porn. This is like, this is the science lab of dreams. I'm sure some of these scientists are there not just because they're being held at gunpoint, but like, actually, we're doing the greatest work of our careers here.
Yeah, some of them
Just
could be
under
like really
duress.
bad people.
Yeah, they might actually
Cobra
really be into
Commander
it.
even. Yeah, exactly. He even mentions he's like Dr. Laszlo has been given the freedom to explore forbidden science.
Forbidden
science. Forbidden science.
So there would be people
So-
who would jump at that opportunity, but he's also just come from being, imprisoned by
scientist.
the Dreadnoks. So I think he just really wants to go back to his own life at this point.
So we're assuming it's the same scientist that was downstairs underneath the
From the
Dreadnought
previous,
spar.
yes, yeah. I mean, he says this is the guy who came with who's been helping explore, how to none of those
Make
words, but
students.
he implies that this is the same guy that he was with before.
I made that
Yeah.
assumption, but I didn't know if there were actually
Yeah.
facts to back it up. We get
If
a
that's
little
the
bit
case-
of an orgy of evidence. Seems Cobra Commander has been researching
yeah.
all the future Cobra members. We've got
All
the
the power
Dreadnoks.
players.
We've got Tomex and Zaymot. We've got a white-clad ninja. And of course,
Ooh.
Destro. Cobra Commander is assembling his usual suspects.
Yeah,
Sorry
he's
about
very
that.
quickly getting there. However quickly this is.
What?
And he,
25 years, I told you.
Again, I'm sorry to be nitpicky and stuff here, but I don't think Destro would ever pose as Destro like he has in that image. So on the computer screen, as Steve mentioned, there's a whole bunch of photos, and none of these photos are like kind of what's the word? They're not stalkerish. They're all very magazine and posed images. Zaymot and Tomax are posing for a camera. Destro is posing for a camera. Okay, Storm Shadow, you could kind of maybe say he isn't, but I don't think Destro would pose in that regalia for some kind of press photo. I just don't feel that he would do that. I feel he would be a lot more subtle. That's why he wears the suit and everything. Like that's his war clothing. I know why they did it because
that really is a nitpick.
It is a nitpick. Sorry, man. And also, I don't love the idea of Storm Shadow being photographed. I know why they did it, but I just don't think he's stupid enough to let himself be photographed when he's trying to stay secret. but it does get all the questions going. So nice to see him though.
Yeah.
Yay! This bat's got a dick in its chest.
Yes, the big reveal. Cobra Commander has been upgrading the bat's power supply, I guess. And he knows that one failed in combat, which is, I suppose, a reference to it being destroyed by the very beleaguered Duke in issue 5 of Duke. Which, yeah, okay. He's got ears everywhere. I can buy that. And it does get the conversation going about how, what kind of power source is this, asked Destro. Like, how have you been able to solve the scientists have been able to rectify? And that is, I mean, we mentioned it before, the fact that the bats, one major flaw is that they pucker out too quickly. They don't have enough power supply to last in combat.
Yeah. And he also ruins your theory about 25 years when he says recently lost in battle.
Yes. Well, look, I'm teasing, but it's just like the time frame to build this much infrastructure.
Then what it could also be is that the timelines are out of sync. The
Or
events
it's just
of
a
Cobra
funny
Commander.
book, and we're not meant to think about.
Yeah,
it
I know
too hard.
exactly. We're not just supposed to. Well, you can think about it hard, but not about every single detail. You know, like they're putting care into the overall structure of stuff, not into the logistics of every single thing that occurs inside the comic book. You know, like I think there is continuity here, but it's not continuity about like, you know, how did he, you know, put his shoe on that morning? How did he, you know, what breakfast did he eat that morning? Like, is it consistent with what breakfast he's always eaten? I think there are certain details which can be, you know, glossed over, at least in, I don't know.
Yeah.
Just thinking about stuff.
Oh, well, but we're here to discuss this like adults who are also
Of
children.
course, we do think about this stuff. But I do think it could be that the time, I mean, that the events of Cobra Commander take place, maybe not significantly before, but they do take place before the events of Duke to a certain degree.
Yes, absolutely. I think we might have addressed that, but like let's make it clear. Absolutely does. Yeah, Duke is a more immediate tumble of days, whereas Cobra Commander is like a backstory in the distant past, not so distant. But I mean, it takes place in Cobra-La initially, and that's maybe a year.
Yeah, and then you don't know how long he's been initially searching, you know, once he's out in the world. So I think it kind of does. It kind of does work. And also, he's got those little robots. He could just have them build this entire thing for him. I don't know. Or he grew the entire city.
Oh, are we doing nanomachines again? Please don't tell me we're doing nanomachines again.
No, I don't think these guys are going to touch nanomachines.
I've just noticed that we've got a sort of semi-civilian population milling around the streets now. Like those lasers ripped up suburbia, but now we've got people like walking their dog, milling around. It looks like a university campus in a sense. These big dark pillars.
And then he's just got a bunch of guys standing around with guns ready to be destroyed by the bat.
What is going on?
They're just hanging around.
Jetpack bat destroy, like basically annihilate all these mercenaries are milling around with guns. Like, what is going on?
Such an idiot.
Just to demonstrate the prowess of this bat, he annihilates those mercenaries. Destro's like, you would kill your own men? Cobra Commander's like, there's always more mercenaries, actually. I don't care.
Valuable lesson to be learned there. Don't just do things for money.
Keeps people in line by showing how quickly you can dispose of them. I don't know. If you ask me, I would run a mile if I saw like how easily people in my position could be dispatched. Be like, okay, I'm checking out. Bye-bye.
Yeah, I mean, from the get-go, you know where his priorities lie and what he does and doesn't care about. It's very obvious. And I think Destro, he's definitely aware of that. And going forward, I think he's not going to. He hopefully won't just roll over. You know, he is doing this with what he knows about Cobra Commander in mind.
The bat
Yeah.
that kills all the mercenaries delivers Cobra Commander a cape and a helmet. And suddenly, boom, the icon is born. Oh, he even got a scepter. Wow.
Wow. Where was he
Fancy.
hiding that?
Shed the old snake. Bats have unique storage capabilities.
Hell yeah. He was
No,
carrying
but-
it all. He was all in his hands.
All the time.
Maybe it's a telescoping.
So we get the
Cane.
reveal of the Cobra symbol on Cobra Commander's chest, of course, because he'd look far too plain without it. I mean, like that is just that's the red cherry on the blue cake.
Mm-hmm.
But then we go to this kind of meeting of like
Yeah.
gun-toting redneck style like belligerents, and then he unveils the Cobra symbol again. And this is like one of those things that even a noob and a sort of a lay person like me doesn't love so much, because I came up with hand-drawn Cobra symbols that always looked maybe a little bit janky, but
Mm.
this symbol is just an image that has been, I suppose, photoshopped to match the very broad folds in the flag,
Hmm.
and it's jarring.
It's not
a
drawn.
digital
Yeah,
element.
he's literally just taken and yeah, I get what you mean. It's the same on his outfit as well. It's very precisely.
It's a graphic, not an illustration. Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you. It jumps out at you.
Yeah.
I'm remembering like days of yore when Herb Trimpe would painstakingly and sometimes very incorrectly draw the Cobra symbol. But we've moved past that. I mean, look, this art style is quite scratchy. It would lend itself to a more crude looking Cobra symbol.
I think
But
that's
I
why it
guess-
stands out so much. Is
Yeah.
I
because
guess
it's
they
suddenly
decided,
this-
you know, weighing it up, like, do we do the hand-drawn Cobra symbol, or do we just give you perfection? You know, do credit
Mm.
by the symbol by having its initial reveal to be like the graphical perfection that it is. You know, Ron Rudat designed an absolute monster of graphic design in that Cobra symbol.
The other thing, though, is branding is such a pain that you probably find that the Hasbro was like, no, we specifically want it to be the graphic so that it can be tied to the product. We don't want an approximation of it. We don't want an illustration of it. We want the actual graphic in the comic book.
Yeah, I suppose if it's being featured, you do want it to be like that. If they're just going to be drawing, because obviously the little thing on his chest right now in the image we're showing, which is from the final page of the comic, that's
the only time either.
That's not the PNG being put in there again. That has to. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's
the
hand-drawn,
shorthand. Yeah,
and
also like the artist and colorist, and I imagine it's the colorist that put the logo in. They're not like, it's not like they don't know how to take that image, for example, and make it look a bit more sketchy. And you can do that. You can, for you guys that don't know, for people that don't know, you can make that a brush in Photoshop, for example, and you can give it that like little bit of a trim, that little bit of an edge or whatever, if you want it to look more.
You can apply like
within the
filters
style.
to it or do something to it to make it less.
You can do something. Yeah, you can do lots to it.
Out of this world.
But it breaks the brand guideline, so obviously that's why. But yeah, fair point, Steve. Like, something that I would like to do, just to pull us back to the scene where the Cobra sigil is sort of revealed or unveiled as well. The hall is full of your sort of, like Steve mentioned earlier, like the redneck types. I mean, I want to just more listed as like your extremists, your extremist weekend warrior kind of, there's many adjectives that are used for guys like this, but I love that they kind of that they're pushing the idea that if you're part of Cobra, you're definitely like not somebody who is right in your head, because that's conveyed here. All of these guys are all a bit nuts looking. They're all carrying guns. They all not that liking guns makes you nuts, by the way. We love guns, but it's just that they definitely went for a type of a look, and they definitely made Cobra look undesirable, to a lot of people. And I think at the same time, maybe they've insulted a few people who might, be able to relate to these guys in the halls. That was kind of ballsy for this book to do, I'm gonna say. I could be a bit more frank and say that they, but I'm scared. Like, I don't want to use certain terms because just now, the video gets copyrighted or whatever. But yeah, these are the types. Also, just
what's the unsavory people of the world? It's mercenaries, people who would listen to what he has to say. People who are
also
unhappy with.
Also, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but I noticed that everybody there in that shot is white. It's a small thing, but they're definitely
a very deliberate thing.
Yeah, definitely trying to push that Cobra is a bit more racist as well. Maybe.
Well, it's certainly a way of control. I mean, you get people on their prejudices, and that is easier to control them because they have something that they already hate, as it were.
The government.
or other people. That is something that's also another way of branding them as bad guys. Bad people are racist.
Exactly.
Or racist or bad people. So
it's a shit trait. Yeah. But anyway, I just thought that was fun to mention.
My disconnect at this point is you've got Cobra Commander in regalia, like military dress uniform of a very high stylization. I mean, this is Idi Amin or what's the Libyan?
Gaddafi,
Muammar Gaddafi, or God, Hitler. What can I say it? Oh no, YouTube's gonna cancel this video.
Those sorts of leaders
really dress the part, and then he's lecturing this school hall of bearded miscreants. I mean, these guys look better in a sort of dreadnought setting than this. It's weird. You expect when Cobra Commander dons the blue and the cape and all that shit to have had this elite crack team of well-trained, well-equipped blue shirts at his disposal. But no, he's still messing around with these, I don't know, just dregs of society. And there is that element to the blue shirts, but the uniform takes that all away. They have this kind of rebirth into this stormtrooper. No identity. You are just this faceless legion. This is a weird image for me.
Is it though? He's trying to sell a way of life to them. So he would dress up the best he can to be able to show them that this is what you can be if you join Cobra.
Just don't look outside where 12 of your buddies are dead. At my
but
demigod.
But I mean, he's making them focus on what he is and what he's presenting to them as a way of life. I don't think it's weird at all. It makes sense to me, at least. He is presenting himself as the best he can possibly be. He's out here going, look at me, look at what can be done, and.
I guess the final point then to just put this one to rest is we've seen an enormous jump in terms of Cobra Commander's infrastructure and what he's achieved in this time, but he's still hiring thugs to do his bidding. His pawns have not gotten an upgrade. They're still a bunch of beardy dudes with trucker caps and shotguns and
we're not there
rifles.
yet.
But we should be.
These are the people underneath the blue uniforms. These are the sort of people that are actually underneath those helmets. So they're trying to show you, yes, it is weird. Yes, he has this giant town that he's built seemingly overnight, but he is still building up the forces that he needs to populate this town. I mean, he seems to be focusing on the weapons and on the technology before he's focusing on getting his troops together.
You'd think it would be the other way around, but yeah, look, the promise,
which is the opposite of Action Force. I mean, if I remember from those issues, he was forcing the people to come to him in that weird snake temple in the middle of nowhere. So he was focusing more on the new troops he needed, wasn't it? Something like that, I think, in the
Action
British
Force?
Action Force, wasn't it?
Oh,
Not
oh
action.
yes. Oh, enemy number one.
Yes, that was his whole thing, was getting the troops together before he actually started branding everything. Well, I think Cobra Commander here, this version of him is coming at it from the opposite direction. He wants all the branding, everything ready to go before he starts, getting the people in. Some cool comments from Rob Hawkins, who mentions Autobot and Decepticon symbols are pretty difficult to draw as well.
Definitely.
And also pointing
I
out
tried
it's
and
way
failed
easier.
as a child many times. It's much easier to remember a Cobra symbol, to be honest.
Yeah, and also
you're
pointing out
right.
it's way easier to get these logos into the comic book than it is to actually draw them.
Sure.
And he
But I
goes
miss
on to
it.
expound, back in the day, it was probably easier to draw it than to take a photocopy of the logo and manually cut and paste it onto the artboard. Nearly impossible to rotate it to different angles. So I suppose they just, it's taking the easier way out, essentially, to kind of like save time and focus on the bigger stuff that really matters, is drawing the people and all of that, I guess.
Moonlight mentioned.
Yes. Continue. More comments. Let's do comments.
No, Moonlight just mentioned it's like a seminar.
He's giving a speech. Of course, he's going to dress up in his best.
Oh, it's hilarious though. Like once again, I mean, Rob, you're absolutely right. That's the peanut gallery would no doubt get the benefit of all the pomp and circumstance and the cape and the presentation. So he's definitely got points for putting on the theatrics of it. But it's so jarring for this like fully regaled leader talking to this mob, and it's not even a big number of people. It's like a school hall. Very funny. Similar scene would have played out in ARA actually, when we had old Ben from Talking Joe on the show. We talked about an issue of ARA where once again Cobra Commander was giving like a talk in a school hall, seemingly after like the nativity play had just concluded or something.
Well, we had something similar in GI Joe. I mean, the main aura currently, where Cobra Commander was talking to his troops, but there it was files of vipers. I think
the setting was just this dusty old hall with like old sprung wood floors.
It's not like a giant thing, where you have like thousands of troops. It's just like, okay, which 20 of you guys want to listen to him talk tonight?
They blew all the budget on the lab, clearly, because that has a sort of infinity ceiling. Anyway, Cobra-La. Now, this is where I pricked my ears up. I'm like, or my eyes. This is a reading medium.
Oh my goodness.
I'm like, yes, let's check in with Cobra-La, please. The most fascinating, most interesting, most sort of untouched in this in the comic books, we're not used to seeing Cobra-La. There was a flirtation with it in the Devil's Due days, but ARA's never touched it, so it's never entered canon. And now, if you want to make Energon Universe your main canon, Cobra-La is absolutely essential to it. Once again, I would urge anyone listening to this who's read Cobra Commander issue 5 to go back and check out the free comic book day Energon Universe special.
Yeah, you get to see what happens just before this.
Oh, yes.
So this is the aftermath of that.
Aftermath.
And
this also is going to break the chronology a little bit. Because...
See, this is something that in comic books I absolutely hate. And if they want to encourage people to buy comic books, they shouldn't do stuff like this. And it's an argument that we're not going to have now. But like,
I presume
now I've got to go. No, I haven't. I haven't because A, I don't want to go to any of the comic book stores in this country other than the one that Rob works at. And B, I haven't found it. I haven't even like thought about it to look for it online. But
well,
like
it's
now I have
kind
to
of
include it into...
Well,
yeah.
you don't actually. I mean, essentially, we the line that the leader throws out, Megatron escapes. That's essentially what happens. It's 4 pages. You don't. What he throws out there is the summary of what happens in there. So you can read it. You don't
Okay.
have to. It's a teaser essentially. I think the meat of that comic books teaser is more the Transformer stuff that
Pythona's
happens
thighs.
and.
What? She thick, boys.
And
Damn.
the Baroness,
That actually
that whole thing. But that's more like these are more like teasers. I don't think they're necessary for you to read it, but I'll get you a copy, Paul. Don't worry.
I appreciate
Don't
that,
worry.
Rob. Thank you, my dude.
It'll happen.
But I'm also just sort of like
But
also
yeah,
trying to vent
it is
frustration
true.
where-
When they do introduce these things and especially if they're major things, and it's not in the main comic book that you're currently reading. It's like
the one that
really?
you paid
Have to?
150 rand for. Mm.
Exactly. Could you not just put it into that issue? I don't know.
Hmm.
I can see where you're coming from, but in this instance, at least, it's a minor. Literally,
Instead I get my second sting for the Destro book, which, quite frankly, I'd rather swap out for the stuff that was in the free comic issue. Not because there's anything wrong with Destro, just because I've already got that stinger in Duke. Anyway, Stephen is dying to tell us about Pythona and her size. Python. No?
Oh no. Well, we could stand to see more Pythona always, boys.
Always.
So I hope she gets to be a bit more of a player as opposed to just, I don't know, being Captain Exposition.
I'm sure she will. I mean, she's one of the few named characters from Cobra-La. I mean, you can't not have her do stuff. I mean, Nemesis Enforcer was obviously integral to this story.
Position?
So yeah, we want to see her in a lot more positions and doing more stuff. For sure.
So she gives us a timestamp.
Yeah.
So we've clearly jumped back in time because she just says that Nemesis hasn't checked in for many days. Notice that they didn't go on to call him Nemesis Enforcer or Immortal in this pad. Well, okay. Speech bubbles only have so much space, so shortening it to Nemesis is smart.
They were also waiting for marketing to confirm for them. Yeah.
Like,
I'm talking about Cobra-La.
This, because I know in Classified we released it as this, but like this we did it like this.
So yeah, they played it safe, which is good. Calling him Nemesis, but he hasn't checked in for many days. Okay, so how many is many days? 2 weeks? 14 days?
Like now.
It's now. It's just now. South African lingo. So yeah, we have jumped back in time, and Megatron is on the loose, and Globulus regards this as a betrayal, which is interesting to me. At first, I had the knee jerk that, like, what has Cobra Commander ever done to betray you, Globulus? He seemed loyal to you right up until the point where you tried to have Nemesis kill him. Then he was like, nah, forget this. I'm going to turn my back on Cobra-La and come back as your ruler one day. But yes, he regards the sort of the stuff that Cobra Commander kept from him as a betrayal. That's the source of his anger.
And his use of technology, of the metal. Like Globulus is very racist against metal. Like he hates any metal. So
well, he advocated Megatron being kept in Cobra-La. He didn't want him dismantled.
For sure. He didn't want to dismantle. He thought he was useful, but I think to a degree. But not as much as like how Cobra Commander was fawning over technology and being like, we can integrate this into our way of life here. And I think that's very anti what Globulus wants. Like he is completely against technology that isn't organic based. You could never convince him otherwise. So any attempt to try and convince him of that is a betrayal in itself, I guess.
Even Cobra-La couldn't defeat the metal.
But combing through the wreckage of Megatron's escape, it seems like all the screens are showing off maybe memory engrams of some kind. Like just beautifully illustrated pictures of like Cybertron or maybe one of the moons of Cybertron and loads of Transformers doing battle in space around it.
Yeah.
Exciting stuff.
Doing action figure box stuff.
It probably is a good sales pitch for, lapsed Transformers fans to rejoin, have some more fun with the TFs. They seem to have a bit more fun than Joe fans, or at least they did for many years. But now Joe's coming back, baby, with the classified series. Now available at your local Target.
Wow.
I'm kidding. Australian
my nearest
listeners
Target?
don't check out Target necessarily, but you will find them at like fan
3,000
channel
kilometers
stores
away.
like Sing. Like I could drive 10 minutes down the road and buy a classified figure.
Wow. I
And
could
if
get
you
on an
try really
airplane.
hard, you'll find them nowhere in South Africa. So
Well, that's
Probably
besides
the
the
whole
point. I think
continent.
like finally global distribution in at least some areas that used to
Global.
enjoy GI Joe.
Not including Africa. It never includes
No, exactly.
Africa.
Well,
Everyone.
hey,
we
dude,
spoke a bit
actually,
about
it's
that
so
on
bad
last
here.
session.
But anyway,
Honest.
I'll get into that just now after we finish the comic book.
Well,
So this
let's
is
cut to the end.
Just cut
Galopius
to the
sends
chase.
Pythona to space.
Yeah. So this they're obviously tying this into, I suppose, Transformers, but more so, I'm guessing, Void Rivals. Because
Okay.
most of the space stuff
I
seems
didn't
to be
even think of
happening in
Void
Void Rivals, while Transformers is obviously following Optimus' story on Earth, or at least from
Right.
the few issues I've read. But I mean, of course, with the escape of Megatron, I mean, that might take us to the stars again. But I feel like they're very much ground based right now. They have no way of getting off Earth. At least that's the way I
Cobra-La
understand it.
have space creatures.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
I suppose
in
you
the
have to
movie,
escalate
Air
their
Force
power.
is ugly.
in the movie, they were sending up rockets into space that would
Rockets are
spores.
pretty dumb things. To have it looks like a tick or a flea with tendrils sticking out the bottom. They're sort of their air force, their airships, as it were, their transport core. To be able to make them capable of space flight, like it was interesting to me, like in the sequences of the movie that spoke of the origins of Cobra-La, and the origins of Homo sapiens, and how they mastered a science that was not based in biological life forms, but in cold technology. They showed a sequence of like a Neanderthal becoming man, becoming a scientist, or I don't know, someone at the launch control, basically, of like a spaceship. Do you remember the sequence? Anyway, so it seemed to be like Galopius at that point was like saying, "Oh, they mastered this technology that could take them into space."
This
But here we see
he's
the
always been
Cobra-La.
able to do that if he wanted to.
Whatever. Give it a pass because you need these forces to all have equal standing, equal kind of power stakes. You don't want the Transformers to come in and just be this god tier combatant that can annihilate everyone else. Like
which I think is often, I mean, being a complaint, I think, in most interactions between Joes or people that aren't Transformers versus Transformers, they really do seem overpowered. And it's kind of cool that we do have all these different factions coming up. They're building up the space division of this universe, and now with and it's cool to see, the Cobra-La is playing a bigger part than I think people might have realized in this. It's not just the origin of Cobra Commander; it's part of what they want to do going forward.
So, guys, with this book,
Paul.
okay,
Whoa.
I just wanted what is it specifically about this book, and maybe about the Cobra run in general, that you like, that you think has been very good? Even though this book in some ways has been a misstep, what have been your favorite things? And I think let's keep it cool. Let's try to focus on this book more than the other four. But just
what
generally,
was cool in this issue?
I think this is we're gonna do that absolutely, Paul. But Peter Moline
For sure
says that if Cobra-La can space travel, then they have no excuse for not taking over the surface. Gents, what would be your?
That's wild.
Okay,
your no.
So there's a great line. I was so happy this came up. There's a line that Galobulus specifically, or that says that he specifically says. I can't English today. He goes, he says, and they are here now. They will bring about our demise. We must send another agent to find the commander, bring him back to us so I can squeeze the life out of him myself. Globulus is scared of technology. He doesn't just hate it. He's scared of it. It's the same way that like a lot of us are kind of reacting to something like AI technology. There is fear there. He's afraid of it. That's why he hasn't conquered the surface. He's scared. And he is scared of losing what little power he actually has. So yeah, that's my feeling on it. Also,
That
with
makes
them being
sense.
able to, yeah, that's been my feeling. Also, with space travel, they could also like leave the planet, but they also believe that they are the true inheritors of the planet. So I think that's kind of where the thing is. But yes, I do take your point, Peter. Like I think it is quite sad that they haven't tried to take over the surface, and they're trying to do it in a roundabout, surreptitious way, which is why they've allowed Cobra Commander to do what he does, or what he has done. But I think they're scared. I think that's what it is. It's all fear, mostly. Hey, Ben.
Got anything to add to that?
No, I think that makes perfect sense. I hadn't really thought about it until Paul brought it up. I mean, I think he is scared of technology, and they are biding their time. That's why they are hidden where they are. Sure, they could leave the planet if they wanted to.
I don't.
I think that makes sense
They
to me.
want to. I think it's an isolationist policy. Cobra-La wants to pretty much keep to themselves.
Yeah,
They
they want to
wanna-
keep they want to be pure,
Yeah.
compared to the techno people are outside of them. And I mean, and the extreme version of that is not just humanity with their use of technology, but the Transformers themselves, which are literally beings of technology.
Metal.
Which is interesting. It might be very weird later on when I'm just throwing out theories here, when like GI Joe is fighting alongside Cobra-La to take out the Transformers at some point. That might happen.
So I'm kind of I'm hoping that happens a little. Okay, so let me put out my first one then. One of the things that I've loved
Cobra-La and
about
GI Joe teaming up to fight the Transformers. I gotta see that.
Yeah,
one of the things that I sorry guys, yeah.
No, go for it. I'm just
Will Flint
so
try and determine what resides in Pythona's
thighs for rhyming? Okay.
He's busy, DJ.
So one of the things that I've really loved about this issue has been that it's this issue in particular is that it's established the fact that they are actually opposites, which is great because GI Joe and Cobra are essentially the same thing. Just one has red lasers and the other one has blue lasers. To be fair, okay, if you really boil it down, but the fact that like this distinction has been made between like a completely metallic race and cybernetic and technology based race and a completely organic race. I love that distinction's been made, and it makes me feel like the writers have really like conceptualized this and thought about this in a big way to try and actually get that whole big war happening. And yes, I do see Cobra-La kind of siding with the Joes to a degree, or at least technology kind of being shared. One of the surprises that I would like to do for the Patreon guys is a bet that I've been thinking of in Cobra-La tech,
that could be
because
cool.
I did a bet for our bet discussion, but the afterthoughts that I wanted to do, which I haven't been able to do because of this week, which I'll be treating to people to this week, is actually doing an organic version of the bat for as a conceptual thing. And maybe now that we've had this conversation, maybe I can also start thinking of conceptualizing Cobra-La style weaponry and armor for Joes as well, and that could be quite fun. But yes, I love that. I love that that's been introduced in this. I love that we've got an enemy other than Cobra for GI Joe to fight, but that enemy could also be a possible ally in the form of the Autobots later, or the Cobra-La later, or something. It's weird.
Yeah, so there's lots of cool stuff that there's lots of possibilities. What I like most about this issue, I think, is that one panel where Vandermeer is like, "Kill me, please." I just love that moment. I thought it just speaks a lot to who Cobra Commander is, and I think yes, even if we're quibbling about like how long it took him to set up the stuff and all that stuff, we are getting the philosophy behind Cobra Commander is being pushed forward. We get to feel who he is, what his goals are, what he's trying to do, and I think that's set up very strongly in this issue. And we get to kind of see a little bit of the dynamic between him and Destro going forward, why he needs Destro, because it feels like he has everything, why does he even need Destro? But he does establish that he needs those machines, he needs the production, he can't do everything. He can think about stuff as much as he wants. He can obviously build this entire town, but he needs outside production to be able to actually push forward with whatever world domination he wants to go forward with. So I think it's a very strong footing for the base of Cobra Commander and Cobra going forward. So I do appreciate that from this issue.
Yeah, he needs a war master. Cobra Commander is a lot of things, but he's not a military, tactician.
Yeah, and another cool panel that I think Zatanna quite enjoyed earlier was the panel with Cobra Commander Destro's face being
reflected
in Cobra Commander's helmet. It's a very cool, just a little notice, and it's cool because we've seen those sort of reflections.
You got a silver face. I got a silver face too. Let's just reflect into each other's faces for infinity.
So I thought that was cool. I agree with Zatanna. That is actually kind of
cool. Let's hang a lantern on that. We've got Zatanna and Zantara on this comments.
Zatanna and Zantara.
Yes.
Zatanna. There we
go. Wow, we're getting popular, guys.
What do you like in this issue? Like, what is the one thing you actually liked about this?
Gosh. Well, I don't like seeing Cobra Commander's forces being dreadnoks, essentially. But not dreadnoks. No code. Just pulled off the street, disenfranchised people. I guess I like the fact that Cobra Commander's attributes as a scientist are being brought to the fore. He's building his empire on this new science and his mastery of it, or at least getting the right people installed to give him mastery. He's plucking from the science community. So it's a synthesis of all the things that Cobra Commander should be to position himself in this as leader of Cobra. And it's doing it quite elegantly and subtly. High science, military leadership, incredible endurance. Like the previous section of the story in the Dreadnought Enclave, where Cobra Commander is being tortured and he can actually tap out any time. He could get Nemesis to come and bust some heads, but he doesn't. He chooses to endure it just to learn more about his opponents, the Dreadnoks themselves. Like that speaks to a kind of toughness that we've never seen from the Commander. A-Rod didn't do it. He was just a used car salesman, got shot in the chest and disappeared for a few issues. The cartoon certainly didn't do it. Didn't do him any favors by making him a cowering weakling at times. A paper tiger, if you will. So we're seeing all these attributes of Cobra Commander that are fresh, really, and positing him as what I've always wanted Cobra Commander to be. And this is like this enigmatic, very powerful, very dangerous Bond villain. You don't have personal insights into his ex-wife, his paraplegic child, his history as a used car salesman. None of that stuff is important. All that's important is that he seems to be absolutely unassailable. This granite wall of like just villainous tropes. That's what Cobra Commander is in this book.
Yeah, awesome.
Despot, regalia. So important.
I love the fact that he is that the series has kind of portrayed him in a more, like, as you mentioned, like more hardcore way. He's also very much a demagogue, which I like. He's very much he believes himself to be better than everybody else, which I love about him, which is, and he also eschews a lot of like really terrible values, which I really appreciate about this Cobra Commander. You know, it's difficult to sympathize with him, even when you are on his side a little bit with the Nemesis Enforcer fight or the Nemesis fight. You're still like, I'm rooting for the bad guy, and you definitely feel that. And I love that Cobra Commander feels like a solid bad guy.
But
He
at that
doesn't-
point in the
yeah.
story, Paul, he is still loyal to Cobra-La. This was the big surprise of this series. The fact that only when Nemesis turns on him and is going to kill him, we don't need you anymore. We've got the scientist, we've got the juice. Cheers. This was my order all along to kill the traitor after you've served your purpose. He still swears allegiance to Galopulus right up until that point. So there's a unusual amount of loyalty from Cobra Commander, and willingness to be subjugated by Cobra-La and pledge allegiance to this thing that you actually never were really a part of.
Which is
Even though you
great
felt-
writing, because now that he's been betrayed, now he will become their worst enemy, and in his eyes, their greatest leader. Like,
But that's why you
all
root
of that
for him,
loyalty has been
because
turned on him. Yeah,
he still
and he feels like a
exhibits
fool for it.
some good values.
Yeah.
Interesting comment from Ben Flying Retro. Glad you could catch us on the live, Ben.
So glad.
He thoroughly enjoyed it, but feels that they will probably be lost to obscurity in 3 or so years. That's pretty much the way G.I. Joe comics go, I think. With a few exceptions like G.I. Joe Cobra, which people still speak of to this day as just being an all-round
And maybe this
good
one
book.
sticks as well. Yeah.
You never know.
I
but
hope
that
this
is
one
not-
usually the.
If you're not ARA continuity, historically you're less important. Because most people will defer to Larry's story that he started way back in 82. And why wouldn't you? It's got all that history. So this is
Great
a
book to read
lovely
now if you need to.
Elseworlds retelling. But in my mind, when I play Cobra Commander, I make him as dangerous and as versatile and as capable as this one. So in many respects, this is tapping into my canon.
Yeah.
This is just presenting what I always knew to be the real Cobra Commander. And all this other stuff, you know, used car salesman, pyramid scheme, etc.
Which also it ties back all the way
valid.
back to the original file card. I mean, the file card itself, I think, sets him up as a terrifying, as a capable enemy leader. It's just that was never really necessarily tapped into effectively across any of the media that we've had since then, since the file card. I don't know. I think what Ben's saying is true, you know, and what you're saying is true. You're saying,
yeah. Look,
it's not raw. It's not memorable. Yeah, exactly. But I think, it is the necessary building blocks. It's like you have to publish these things to get to the next step. And they're taking this. They are necessary steps, but at the same time, they seem to be taking them seriously. You know, they are having fun with telling these stories and setting up the building blocks. And yes, we are very obviously seeing those building blocks at the end of these miniseries. I mean, I imagine it'll be the same with Destro and Scarlet as well. 4-issue, awesome 4-issue story. 5th issue is the setup for the next thing, which is unfortunate but they are trying to build up their own mythos. And it's an acceptable loss, I guess, to have to lose an issue to this sort of thing. But if they could have taken more time,
right. Duke had the setup tacked on to the end of the issue, which still gave you his catharsis.
Yeah, it had a good grade going into
destroying the bat, wrecking the Mars facility.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, you're right. It is better in Duke than in this version. But I would agree with Mark, I think earlier, who said, as with Duke, he feels that these things would have been better served being a longer miniseries. I think he said like maybe 10 parters or something, which I think would be really cool. But I think it's probably maybe something we'll get later on. But as they're going along now, they are trying to like jumpstart this entire universe and get it going, you know, while they still have that momentum. And they've done the best that they can with the short miniseries, you know, that they've given themselves, or issues they give themselves. So I think overall Cobra Commander is overall still very good. I really enjoyed it overall.
Also, when he's in the school hall, and he's addressing his new followers. I know, Steve, you're not a big fan of it being the type of guys that follow him, but actually, people like Cobra Commander, those kind of enigmatic leaders, they do tend to target smaller locations like that because they do want to come across as being more in touch with people, and so more relatable. And so, yeah, he is going to create these smaller groups, more engagement, more involvement. You can see their faces. He knows who they are. Now, he can sell the dream to them. He can sell what he wants to sell to them.
Yeah,
and
you read the words
that
he puts there. He is like, I was without purpose, I was lost, but I've been awakened, and I have a purpose now. I want to give you that purpose, and together we will discover. What does he say? I've seen more than you can ever imagine, and I will share it with you, so we can create a new world together.
Which is going to sail plainly over the heads of those miscreants. I mean, it's quaint, but in a social media age,
you say that, but the way that he's saying it is not complicated. He's not putting in flowery words there. He's keeping it basic. It's like, I can see you have no purpose. There's stuff that you are missing in your life. I think a lot of people can relate to that. They're sitting there, they have no jobs. It is relatable for sure.
And they're also speaking of the type of people that, for example, these guys are not these are not stupid people. These are people that are disillusioned by whatever form of leadership or government that they currently have.
They're not automatically stupid because
they've gone into YouTube, they listen to their podcasts, they wear their foil hats, they've been collecting, ammo and all that kind of stuff.
They may be stupid in the way that they don't think about it too much. They think about it enough, and they hear the stuff that helps. How to reinforce what they're thinking about, but they are thinkers. They're just not overthinkers. They're not intellectuals. But he's not trying to, per se, but he's not trying to recruit intellectuals. He wants people that will hear enough of what he's saying.
What did you just say?
I said they're not intellectuals per se. But they think that they're like. But these kind of people do think that they're smarter than everybody else.
All right. Agree to disagree, but. Rating it, this is the weakest of the 5, obviously.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Set up for that, unfortunately. I mean, I just think back to the amazing sort of staging of that Dreadnought torture sequence. And then the denouement of Cobra Commander having the smiley face and the camera just sort of pushing in on him.
Yeah, fantastic, memorable moments. And then... And then you get this as like the ending. It's the setup for the next thing. It does feel very sour.
They kind of almost apologize for it in the letters page. Did you guys?
Oh, do they?
No, I feel like they apologized with the Cobra-La thing.
It says here at the start of the letters page, Cobra. This series was always going to end with the formation of Cobra, and now we're here. I hope you enjoyed reading it as much as we had in making it. It's very like, well, guys, I know this ran 5 issues, but the 5th is really going to be a bit of a downer because we had to do the obvious.
Wow, you love reading into what these guys are saying.
It's like, what were you expecting us to do? Of course, he's going to form Cobra in 5 issues. All sandwiched into the back end, basically, because we have a fun story to tell for 4 issues, and then the necessary stuff, the boilerplate stuff, to shoehorn into the end.
For me, it's the fact that they put the Cobra-La stuff at the end of the book and not at the beginning. The end of the book says, "Here's a little prize because we know that this book isn't like our strongest offering." Whereas if they put it in the beginning, it would have felt like, oh, cool, okay, Cobra Commander, oh, okay, he hates Cobra Commander, blah, 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 Megatron's like escaped, cool. Then we quickly cut to not Ripper being the delivery, the messenger, but somebody else. And then, and then we kind of have, okay, cool, Springfield actually being assembled or in mid-assembly or in mid-takeover or whatever's. And cool, whatever's. Who cares? Out of all of the books, I just feel like it was the least kinetic, and for me, that just makes it weaker than the rest. Also, if I didn't read this,
apart from Cobra Commander slaying
been fine.
Destro's troops and his own,
Yeah,
no
it's-
real action, just a lot of talking heads. Like, have a little tour through my facility, Destro. You know, it's the
Spend
soft
no
sell.
expense.
He's being the
Spend no
salesman.
But it's yeah, I mean that's why it's weak. It's because they have to go through these motions, which I think is reading to what you're saying. They're saying it's like it had to end with Cobra formation, so we had to go through the motions of trying to set this all up so you can kind of see where we're going from here. Yeah, definitely the weakest of the series, but I would still say overall a good read. If you can get this in graphic novel, I would definitely recommend doing that.
3 out of 5 for me because it hurts the previous 4 books.
How
Whoa.
would you have improved it?
As I said, I would have put on the globulus thing in the beginning,
Globulus
the Cobra-La
front.
stuff in the beginning. I would have changed the messenger from being Ripper to someone else and actually have Ripper be their boss and not coming across as like scared, but more taking his anger out and his fear out on the lackey that's there. I wouldn't have had Cobra Commander doing the whole stupid killing his own people thing. I think take that stuff out of the book entirely and switch Ripper around, and for the most part, the book would have been fine. It wouldn't have really hurt what had come before it. But I just feel that this Cobra Commander, everything he does is cool except for killing his own people, which kind of pulls him back to what he kind of used to be. And I liked the new, fresher approach that he was going into, the more complete approach. So yeah, that's what I would do.
I think, I don't know how you could really improve it because, the story essentially ends at issue 4. Like you get that
Yes.
setup of him realizing that he isn't part of Globulus's world. He has to be part of his own world. He grabs, Ripper and he grabs the scientist and like, let's go and do this thing. This is very much an epilogue, actually. It's very much an epilogue issue.
And an unnecessary one. Issue 4 ended with the establishment of the connection between, like, Cobra Commander was then going to seek out Destro, right?
Yeah,
was the
that
premise.
probably would have been enough, really.
That sets you up. That's all you needed. Don't even need issue 5. It's all assumed that they hooked up and
actually.
Cobra Commander traded signs for power, a stake in the weapons manufacture. And they started building from there.
If you really wanted this somewhere, I guess you could have put it. No, you couldn't really have.
Just cut it.
Yeah, just cut it. But they feel like they needed it as part of the establishment of this thing, because ending it at 4 is relying almost too much on pre-established knowledge of longtime GI Joe fans. So as new readers coming into it, you need to kind of see a little bit of that. So I think this issue is necessary for that, for the people that aren't 30, 40 years in the grass here. It's necessary for the new readers and for the graphic novel, so that when you get to that final issue, you're like, okay, cool, this is where they're going next. This is how they're setting up what's to come.
Actually, you're right, Rob. Let's look at it through fresh eyes, because we're jaded and old, and we didn't need this.
We've been out in this jungle for years now.
Needed a conclusive end to the story that gives rise to where things can kick off.
For sure, issue 4 is a delicious end. Like that's gorgeous. He's just walking off with them, and he's like, "Now I'm gonna rule the world." And then next time you see him, he's this big, bombastic man, surrounded by his blue, men.
Blue man group.
But yeah, if you think about it in this way, I think it does make sense. It's a sour note for us because we're just essentially treading ground that we've tread in our minds in other comic books for years. But I think for new readers, it's a nice way of showing you like a little bit more of where he's going, like who is this guy, and then you give the little teasers and the little images, little screens for the old guys. It's a difficult balancing act.
And talk about some new toys, maybe.
Well, there's one thing I want to add before we walk away from this. I think the last pages of this could have been a training montage of those guys that are getting their hair shaved and everything, because as much as they're rebels, they're still going to be part of an army, and they have to wear uniform, and they're going to realize that, oh shit, they've gone from one service to another. And I think it would have been cool to have seen them all like that, lined up, going through a process very similar to like a prison type situation and not a military situation, and them kind of having that look of regret on their faces, like they made the wrong decision, and then they could have ended that off very cold, maybe then, and left it like that, and that would have been better, because instead of not having a fifth issue and being in the the grass for 40 years, this is a product, and from beginning to end, this product should be good, and this product is
it could
good
be a
3/4
one
of the
shot.
way
Actually,
through.
you could definitely do a
Well,
one shot like that.
Yeah, but I
And
just feel like,
Mm.
I just
Before we
feel
move on.
it's 5 issues, 4 good ones, 1 iffy one to just accommodate people.
Yeah.
Like, it's a bit shit, so maybe just have,
I think they
like,
want to charge
tied
a
it up
certain price
nicely.
for the graphic novels, and they've settled on 5 issues being the thing they want to do. Before we move on, I just wanted to, Moonlight mentions that they could have put it at the start of Destro #1, which is actually what I was about to suggest just now, and do it from Destro's point of view. But I feel, at least, the problem with that is that Destro feels very weak in the situation, and I think with the comic book being his comic book, you want him to be strong from the start to the finish, and I feel this makes him feel very weak. He is easily bested by Cobra Commander, and then you'd have to deal with the repercussions of how that affects him in the rest of that series, and that, I think, draws away from whatever type of story you might be trying to tell in Destro. So I feel like this is the best place to put it, unless you put it in a one shot, Cobra Rising one shot or something like that. So that's why I feel it wouldn't work in Destro's own miniseries, because he feels very weak in the story. He is subjugated to Cobra Commander's will and having them set up their connections. And anyway, that's just how I feel about it. But guys, new toys. What, Stephen?
Tell us about new toys.
What? This
My
is
word,
insane.
we've chinwagged about that book a long time, eh?
Well, the episode is called Cobra Commander issue 5. There's no
Indeed,
subtitle.
not new shit.
Here,
but let's tie this episode up with a neat little bow. Do you guys get any new toys in the past 2 weeks?
No, unfortunately, nothing new. So this is the Stephen new toy section. So
Steven, well, I'll keep it brief.
Regale us.
I'm keeping my shit secure, man. I want an Ecto 1, and I want those Ghostbusters, those GI Joe ones, and I want to see what Super 7 does. That's why I'm not spending any money on any new toys at the moment.
You're gonna love this, Rob. I'm part of the way to getting a Ninja pile driver. I got
cool, man.
Oh, you got that repaint of Storm Shadow. Nice.
Yeah. And therein lies my criticism. If you're going to take Ninja Force Storm Shadow and do just a different character with the same mold, at least give him a different predominant color than Storm Shadow. Like, this guy's clad in white.
It's
like
Storm Shadow with blue accents.
GI Joe, the white ninja, is Storm Shadow. This guy, by having Storm Shadow's mold and being in white predominantly, it just gives him no identity of his own. I mean, he's got this pop of orange, but like, he's just not enough. Make him purple. Make him pink. Make him
do
blue.
Something.
Just
give him like
don't
some
make him pink. That would be cool.
Well,
make him teal.
That's stealing orange Banzai's territory, isn't it?
Repaint him based off a different character. I feel like the mold for that version of Storm Shadow is too him. Like maybe use what's his name, Nunchucks. Use his mold. Like you could have done something with different coloring of that. Like there, you could really go different, because that was like green with the black. That's and it takes a lot away from the detailing of the plastic and stuff that he's wearing. You could actually pick that out a lot differently with a nice color scheme. So I think that would have worked much better. Take a character who isn't as iconically looking as Storm Shadow does. I don't know.
Yeah, they're really cheap out, man. The legs are unpainted, completely unpainted. There's not even a detail added.
Nothing going on there.
Knife or the whatever else is on his
grenade.
Maybe explosives. Maybe mini nunchucks. Anyway, shame. But yeah, it was something that was going for cheap at a toy market, and I was like, okay, I'll have that.
Storm Shadow tried to eat takoyaki but forgot to remove his mask.
Oh no, stained. It is a
I hope he
weird
chased
look.
it with a highball.
Just his mask is picked out in
It
orange.
is very strange.
Whatever. And then
No.
keeping with the ninja theme, I finally have
Oh.
completed my awesome foursome. I got a vintage Raphael.
Nice, dude.
Congrats.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Speaking of the awesome foursome,
Oh yes.
I saw the second wave in stores, which was quite a surprise because I haven't seen them on Big Bad Toy Store yet. They had
Wow.
what's his name? Mondo Gecko April. Yeah, they had Mondo Gecko April. The cockroach, I can never remember the damn thing's name. And there was one more, I can't remember. But yeah, they're actually looking very good. They're very cool. It's nice to see more of the new movie Ninja Turtles out in the toy shop. I also want to mention those have been the only new toys I've seen in the toy shop the whole year.
Wow.
That's how bad it's been in South Africa. Yeah.
It's
There
June.
haven't been been no
sick
new Transformers. Rob, I'm sure you can back this up as well. There's been no new Transformers in store, no new Ninja Turtles really, no new Motu, no
Absolutely
nothing. It's been
they're not
dry.
even bothering. They're not bothering anymore. They're like,
I think there's a
just
huge
noise.
problem with suppliers. I don't know. It's a
Suppliers,
problem.
but it's also
very
people
sad.
buying. Like, I don't think people are buying the stuff they're bringing in. They're bringing in the wrong stuff.
Squishimals are selling well. But yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. What's up, Same Time Toys? And hey, Troy. What's up, dude?
Peter Moline got himself an 88 Armadillo and a certain Kickstarter. Ooh.
Is that maybe not the is that the GI Joe Kickstarter?
Ooh.
The book one. The one that went out in a day. Anyway, Steve, Steve, you posted a picture of a Transformer.
Yeah, what's up with that?
Guys, I would really dominate this podcast even more so.
Go for it. Please tell us more about your new toys. We can live vicariously through you.
Well, look, I mean, most of the toys I buy are not
Steven
for
told
me.
us about all the toys he bought. You know, there would be in every episode would just be Steven. New toys from Steven.
This stuff is for the little guy. This stuff is for.
What about tracks?
It is a Micro Machines Optimus Prime and trailer.
I love it.
Non-transforming, but I mean, it still kind of transforms because the trailer folds out to be a Micro Machines like base.
That is so cool. I wish we had that when we were kids, but they were competing against each other.
They
That
were.
wouldn't have happened.
Oh, gosh.
Man, that is so cool. Speaking of, have you guys checked out that awesome diecast, the Hot Wheels Optimus Prime? I sent you Mooks a video about it, but nobody said anything. But it's actually like
I'm aware of it.
It transforms,
I'm looking
man.
for it. What?
No, there's two. There's an Optimus Prime, which is just a truck, standard Hot Wheels style diecast. But then there's like a premium edition, which is a smaller. It's bigger than a normal Hot Wheels, but it transforms. And it transforms the same way the G1 does, and it's completely diecast. And that Transformers base on screen looks really amazing. Yeah.
That's all right. I mean, it does do something very cute, which is like it has symbols, Autobot symbols that are kind of obscured by like a bit of red digital gap.
And you have to use the thing, like a red
decoder,
thing.
yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
But of course, the best thing about it is it comes with an exclusive
Little
Autobot tracks.
Hell yeah.
In Micro Machines scale. And while
he transforms. No, he doesn't.
If only. World's smallest. Wow. If I have any misgivings about, well, yes, I do have misgivings about modern Micro Machines being just a little bit too big and a little bit too like cheap looking when compared to the vintage. They kind of have
those are nicer than the ones I've seen here. So yeah,
this is a nice one. Tracks, I mean. Oh, even the taillights are painted in. It's a lovely
very good.
Should have gotten that knockoff Chinese brand to do them so they could transform.
Hell yeah.
You guys remember those, right?
Look, Elliot loves it. I'm surprised he hasn't beaten down the door saying, "Where's my blue car?"
Well, it looks like Troy's going to a Robo toy show in his area soon, and he'll get some cool Transformers. Yeah.
Rad. I think that's all we had on the agenda, really, guys. Unless there's something you're
That is an
dying
agenda.
to talk about. The agenda was Cobra Commander.
International Backyard, Steve.
Okay.
When are people going to see it?
Yes. At this point, I'm actually in the midst of taking in submissions. Our dedicated team of
I'm making music.
contributors are finishing up their sections. I think the deadline I gave them was the 24th of June. I gave an earlier deadline, I think the 16th, if I'm not mistaken, of June. So midway through this month, I'd like to be getting our public submissions. If you don't know what I'm talking about, well, I'll put a link in the description below after the fact.
Check our previous ones.
Yeah, there is a video. If you go to the GI Joburg YouTube channel, go to our recent videos, there's an invitation for International Backyard. If you want to get involved, check that video. All the instructions are there. Get into contact with us. We'd love to take submissions from the public this time.
Because the reason I'm asking...
Come here.
Hey, Robbie.
Oh, why are you asking?
The reason I'm asking, Steve, is because I've been spending quite a bit of time today and this past week here and there working on score for the video that because you've sent me video, Steven sent me video. So I've been working on that. I've been scoring some of it, and then I've been creating some music and stuff for this thing. I'm not gonna lie, it has not been easy. But that's good, because when it's difficult, it takes you out of your comfort zone a little bit. Hey, Elliot, takes you out of your comfort zone a little bit. And yeah, hopefully I pull out greater things. I've already pulled out some sounds that I really, really love. So
incredible.
Yeah, excited about that. So that's why I asked, Steve, because
you are rearing to go to start.
I'm busy on it as well, so I wanted to share my excitement with the class.
Well, I have filmed the opening sequence. I've also taken submissions from Mark van Leeuwen and Snowcat Ron. They both collaborated because they're both situated in the Netherlands, and they are, I think, but an hour's drive away from each other.
An hour away.
Well, the whole country. You can basically drive from end to end in like 2 hours, I think.
Europe is so small.
The Netherlands, however, is yeah. Oh, it must be lovely to be in a country that's like a 2-hour drive. We'd see each other every weekend.
Amazing.
Boys.
What are you talking about, Steven? You live in Cape Town. You guys won't drive longer than an hour to get anywhere. In essence, that's what the Cape Town is.
Yeah, if Paul was 2 hours away, we would never see him.
Exactly. I mean, anyway, I can't help myself because got to get a bit of a Cape Town jab in there.
Yeah.
Thanks as always to our patrons, the guys once again keeping the lights burning at GI Joburg HQ. These fine folks here.
Look at them. Look at them.
Of course,
look at them.
All you need to do all you need to do to support GI Joburg is just watch our stuff.
Yeah, that's all you have to do to us, guys. Just look at us.
But the folks who see it in their hearts to send us some bucks from month to month, we salute you all for your added contribution. What's under your feet?
So true.
And we also hope that you've been enjoying the extra stuff that like Steve and I have been doing, like the little Steve's vlogs that are on his YouTube membership thing.
Amazing.
The YouTube members and the afterthoughts and early access and it looks like we sort of I'm speaking to the community here. It looks like we are kind of collaborating on some new shirt designs. The way things have been going.
There we go. Yeah, Joburg inspired shirts. That's brilliant. Why not?
I'm looking forward to getting people's feedback on some of the stuff because guys like Ron have already suggested some good ideas and things are happening there. So that's exciting as well.
Amazing.
But sweet.
That's 329, guys.
Thank you to all. Thank you to everyone in the chats. All the sets of eyes that joined us live. People who saw fit to drop us some comments. We see you. We enjoy everything that you have to say. Thanks for keeping the conversation lively. I mean,
and thank you to everyone listening to us after the fact. In 2048 and whatever year you hear this. Thank you for listening to us and coming this far on this journey with us. And I hope you'll join us for 330, where we will be talking about some incredible toy.
Something else that's GI Joe related. Yes. I'm actually quite
Absolutely.
excited to see what we are going to be talking about, guys.
Whoa.
What
It'll be
vehicle
a
and or
surprise. You'll
figure
find out.
and or other piece of GI Joe merchandise will we be putting our focus on for the next episode?
Incredible. Join us next time for GI Joe. Berg.
Berg, Android Troopers, Berg, Android Troopers. Love the
Berg.
way that Android, the bats are drawn.